Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and I don't think I've ever seen Senator Kennedy this mad when this woke, corrupt bureaucrat can't answer a simple question.
I'm going to ask you a third time. If President Lopez Obrador invited the American military and our law enforcement personnel to come into Mexico and work with the same in Mexico, we could stop the cartels. Isn't that a fact?
So, Senator, I can speak to the law enforcement side of this, and you just mentioned law enforcement. I believe that this is vital for both Mexico and the United States. Mexicans are dying as well, as we showed in the Chapitos.
Well, then why don't we stop them?
So
would it help? Let me ask you a fourth time. Would it help if President Lopez Obrador, I don't think it's a complicated question, Madam Administrator. You're asking us for more money every year, more money, and it gets worse, worse, and worse. You know, in the real world, the nitty-gritty of the real world, when you fail, you get fired. In government, when you fail, you get more money because obviously you need it. Now, let me ask you a fourth time.
Oh, he's 100% right on this, and this is one of the biggest problems we have in our government system from top to bottom. We have a system set up in a way and in a mindset of where we just throw money at the problem until eventually the problem goes away. Except the problem doesn't go away, and we just put more money down the drain. It is a terrible system, and it's about to get even worse.
If President Lopez Obrador, and I'd appreciate an answer, if President Lopez Obrador invited the American military and our law enforcement personnel to come into Mexico and work with his, we could stop the cartels, couldn't we?
I believe, Senator, that we can stop the cartels.
Okay, have you made that suggestion to President Biden?
If I could, I believe that we can stop the cartels by...
Have you made that suggestion to President Biden?
Senator, I have been very vocal in the whole of government setting on the importance of fentanyl, and all of us using every single effort and authority that we have.
Why hasn't President Biden done it? I mean, this is the way the American people, whose sons and daughters are dying, look at it. Our economy is $23 trillion. Mexico's economy is $1.3 trillion. Ours is 18 times bigger. We buy $400 billion every year from Mexico. Without the people of America, Mexico, figuratively speaking, would be eating cat food out of a can and living in a tent behind an outback.
Senator Kennedy, you got one part of that wrong. They don't go to Outback. They're more of an Applebee's kind of person. Okay, all kidding aside, he's right. And Senator Kennedy is making ultimately 2 points here, and I'll get to the second one much later. But one is Mexico's almost entirely dependent on two things, the United States and the cartels.
So why don't you and the president, embarrassing no one, get on the phone and call President Lopez Obrador and make him a deal he can't refuse to allow our military and our law enforcement officials to go into Mexico and work with his to stop the cartels. Why don't you do that?
Senator, what I am doing every single day is working with the incredible men and women of DEA who are risking their lives across 334 offices worldwide.
And I appreciate that, but you're not doing what would work. Why won't you do what will work?
Senator,
why don't you call the president this afternoon and say, Mr. President, let's call President Lopez Obrador privately and make him a deal he can't refuse. Because we both know that President Lopez Obrador has neither the ability nor the will to stop the cartels. But yet we go along and pretend that they're our friends, and Mexico is our friend. But he has criminal organizations that are killing our people, and you know how to stop it, and the president does, and you're not doing it.
So the second point that I wanted to make, and I need to cut that in half, Senator Kennedy is trying to get this terrible bureaucrat, and I actually think she's trying. So I shouldn't call her terrible, or I shouldn't call her corrupt. But she can't break through to the Biden administration because the Biden administration does not want to fix the problem and actually thinks that this illegal immigration is a good thing. It's a solution. And Senator Kennedy wants to do essentially two things. He wants her to at least say that she's tried to get this idea passed and can't because the Biden administration is absolutely asinine, and that Mexico needs outside help. He is offering his solution, and he's trying to get this bureaucrat to do her job and talk to President Biden and say, hey, there's actually a problem here. But she can't answer that question. She refuses to for the whole video, because if she says that, yes, I've gone to Joe Biden and I've said this, she will ostracize herself. Because the people in these bureaucratic monstrosities in the federal government are almost all, by and large, dyed-in-the-wool, hardline leftists who want to pull the country kicking and screaming into their wonderful utopia, which ultimately is a dystopia because they will then lie and slander and destroy everything that they can in order to make their utopia. You can't bulldoze down a forest and then say it's very peaceful. You can't do that. That's not how this stuff works. That's not how humans work. And unfortunately, if you point this out to a liberal, you're going to trigger them. And if you want to trigger liberals in your life, go over to my friends at basebuy.shop, link in the description below, and show the world how conservative you really are. Now, ultimately, the goal of a good senator is to do two things. Make sure the government's working, three things. Make sure the government is working properly, fill the vacancies in the judicial system, and care about foreign policy. Well, since the second one doesn't really matter here, foreign policy is at the sort of height of what the Senate wants to do. And so Senator Kennedy is talking about Mexico and their issues with the cartels and how the cartels are destroying our country. They're bringing in fentanyl, they're human trafficking, they're even sex trafficking. And what they'll do is that they'll call some random person in their network and say, hey, can you sponsor this kid? Can you sponsor this person? And that person will then have to find a basically really low-level job and pay a toll to the cartels. It's a money printing machine for these guys, and they're experts at it. And the Democrats are walking around with their fingers in their ears or their heads in someplace other than sand, and thinking that everything's fine, there's not a real problem, when in reality the cartels are flooding the streets with people by human trafficking. It is disgusting, and it must be stopped. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.